Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very interesting story. There was a mistrial in Steve Bannon's case regarding a fund that was set up to implement one of President Trump's major policies. Okay, well, that story I talk about, or to help implement one of President Trump's major policies pertaining to the wall, that was the segment prior to this one. This is really interesting. Yahoo Finance, Bannon subpoenas Pelosi House Committee in contempt case. So, obviously known as one of President Trump's closest allies, or one of his allies. That's why I wrote the title in the manner that I did. I could have written Steve Bannon, but there's a method to the madness. So anyway, Steve Bannon's lawyers are seeking to question under oath Speaker Nancy Pelosi and every member of the House committee investigating 2 years ago as part of a legal challenge to whether the panel was properly formed. It wasn't. The panel was not properly formed. This is obvious. You can't have two never-Trumpers and every other Democrat. You had nobody voting, or you had nobody who was politically close to Trump. Generally, if you say, well, there are Republicans on the panel, you're assuming, the assumption is that the Republicans are going to back Trump or that they're going to give an opposing viewpoint. You have zero opposing viewpoint. Cheney and Kinzinger are saying exactly what the Democrats on that panel are saying. Furthermore, Trump hasn't been indicted. So if you accuse Trump of everything under the sun for 5-6 years, you can't find anything in a court of law that could prove he's guilty of breaking a legal statute. What are you doing? Go to the stock market crash channel right now. Recession is imminent. The Atlanta Fed GDP Now tracker estimates that 0.6% growth in the second quarter, but that's always revised way down. So you had negative 1.5% GDP growth in the first quarter, and you're going to have negative growth in the second quarter, almost certainly. Recession. We have a recession with rising interest rates. Think about that for a second. And that's why Democrats are trying to make this like primetime nonsense. It's like, where is the panel for $1 to $2 billion in property damage that summer? Yes, the cause was a noble cause, but no cause is worth $1 to $2 billion in property damage. And 19 lives lost, more than that, according to Wikipedia. So the chaos and mayhem media and Democrats are okay with when it suits them politically. When it's politically expedient to say, it was mostly, peaceful, that's fine. But when they can go ahead and focus on one day, and granted, that day should never have happened. That was a bad idea from President Trump, bad idea. And I condemn what took place that day. Very bad. Loss of life was horrendous. Most of the people who lost their lives were supporters of Trump. But at the same time, you're going after and you're accusing Donald Trump of committing a crime, but you haven't indicted him or charged him. Nobody has. For colluding with another country, which never happened, which was a conspiratorial theory pushed by maniacs who also then pushed to end the U.S. economy in his last year in office, which is now leading to inflation at 8 to 9%, negative GDP growth, recession in 2 consecutive quarters, gas prices doubling under President Mashed Potato Brains. I talk about that today. I have 2 segments on the Stock Market Crash channel. Go and subscribe there, ladies and gentlemen. We're almost at 20,000 subs. People, I'm telling everybody that it's like, when I say subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel, it's not just like a channel that's like a hobby of mine. It's like, no. It's an important, like if you have a 401k, if you could, God forbid, get laid off, if you have investments in the market or in crypto, or, the market is going to continue to collapse further down. Like, it'll go way below 30,000, the Dow, way below 30,000. You heard this here first. If that's the first time you heard it here first then. And if you have a 401k, subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel, okay? There might be better channels in terms of investment advice, because I don't give investment advice, but I give you what I believe the macroeconomic landscape is, which is absolutely terrible. We have a sword of Damocles hanging over the U.S. economy, the U.S. stock market, global stock markets, and also the crypto world. So 2 swords of Damocles hanging over the crypto scene and also the traditional stock market. You have hedge funds that can go under. You have a derivatives nightmare with these hedge funds that the hedge funds engage in purchase derivatives contracts on margin, and that's not regulated in many cases. We saw that with Archegos going under, but last year. But you have inflation that's 8 to 9%. Gas prices doubled. You have oil at 110 to 120 per barrel, and Democrats have nothing to show for their governance, for their policies. They keep talking about how wonderful their policies are. They have nothing to show. So from the macroeconomic perspective, please hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. It's below in the pinned comment. 2 segments today. The last one explaining why we're in a recession and the recession that we have. Now, hit the subscribe. Also, the Bitcoin Crash to 10,000 or lower channel, because that is unfortunately not only going to mirror the stock market collapse we're seeing in slow motion, but it's going to actually be, it's going to collapse and descend into oblivion a lot faster than the traditional markets. He wants, in the lead up to the trial, Bannon's lawyers question whether Pelosi and Democrats followed the House's own rules in the formation and makeup of a bipartisan committee. A resolution that created the committee states it shall have 13 members, but the panel only has 9, 7 Democrats and 2 Republicans, all of whom were elected by Pelosi. And one of Bannon's attorneys stated in a phone conversation it would be a terrible irony if the committee tries to quash Bannon's subpoenas, adding the documents his clients is seeking belong to the American people. So it's interesting. He also wants testimony from CHENEY and Pelosi. So he wants them to testify under oath. And this is very interesting. He's turned the tables primarily because he just won a major court case. They were going after him with a vengeance. So much so that even one of the jurors within the jury said, yeah, you know what? Everyone here is a biased New York Democrat and just wants to get Steve Bannon, which is kind of hilarious and beautiful. I mean, that man is awesome. He actually is, that type of human being is saving democracy. So the man who spoke out and didn't just adhere to groupthink. I mean, I should never be on a jury, because if I see that groupthink, I would never just abide by it. Like, I wouldn't, like, in the Sussman case, they said, oh, you can't use, in Michael Sussman trial, you can't use the text message that actually states the lie. I would never adhere to that. I don't know. I get it. Like, I understand you have to be in a jury. You can only look at certain pieces of evidence if you're supposed to, but like, I'm a human being first. You're a human being first before you're anything else. Before you're a Democrat or Republican. What did Henry David Thoreau stated? I forgot what the quote was, but basically you're a human being first and everything else second. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is really interesting. It'll be interesting if he gets this, if he gets a judge or a court to enforce the subpoena of Pelosi, CHENEY, and others to get them under oath. He'll very likely ask them if there was any federal involvement. I'll leave it at that they know of. See, here's the thing. They want a primetime spectacle, but at the same time, we have a recession imminent. So things are going to get worse, not only in terms of the stock market collapse and the Bitcoin crash and crypto collapse, but also in terms of food prices, food shortages, supply chain breakdowns, interest rates going up. You're going to pay more for your minimum payment in terms of credit cards. Everything's going to be more expensive in this world now. And it's because of the maniacs who pushed to end economic activity 2 years ago, but it's also because of the imbeciles who said, let's pump $10 trillion through fiscal and monetary stimulus, and this way we won't have a problem with a recession or inflation or high commodity prices, because you know what? We can micromanage. That's why the Soviet Union fell, You cannot micromanage through bureaucrats every aspect of an economy. You can't shut it off and turn it back on like a light switch. And if you do that, it's a catastrophe. We're seeing that now. And that's why Democrats want to focus on what happened 2 years ago, which was absolutely terrible. But that's the only thing they have. Their policies are, the country is in free fall. In terms of foreign policy, nobody respects the country, and really nobody respects any prestige that we once had is not there. When German officials laughed at Trump when he was saying that they were beholden to Russian oil and gas, he was 100% right. Half the world, or maybe less than half, didn't like Trump, so they didn't respect him. But every country respected the United States of America or also respected Trump. I mean, half of every country either really admired Trump or didn't like him. You can't say the same about mashed potato brains Biden, because people look at him like, what is he doing? Where you look at the foreign policy failures thus far, and the economy, our influence on the world stage was based upon our economic might, which is now dwindling every single day. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel right now. It'll be interesting to see if Bannon gets them to testify under oath. That'd be very interesting. Hit subscribe. Go to the Stock Market Crash channel right now, and then the Bitcoin Crash channel right now. Subscribe to both, people. Thank you.